Welcome to Master Theros Uncut, where we discuss the issues others are too timid to discuss. And now, here's James Theros. As I mentioned in today's post, this is not really for the faint of heart. Those of you guys that know me know I don't have a problem giving an opinion, speaking my mind, and I want to be as respectful as I can here. So, and I just say that because, let's see. Okay, hi Mrs. Lau, 15 minutes. You can watch this later, obviously, but for those of you that can stay live, at the end of the video today, I'm going to give you a call to action and give you an opportunity to ask any questions, or maybe give me some comments, or maybe some additional thoughts that you have on what I'm going to talk about today. I've got 7 points that I'm going to be discussing today. Who's that? Mr. McCain, how you doing, sir? Long time no see. All you guys, I haven't seen you forever. It seems. So today's topic I wanted to talk about, for those who came to the black belt test, and probably those watching, many of you did, there's a point in my test where a lot of times, and if you've been to enough of my tests, you know I don't like to sit back and just observe. I like to get involved in the students' training. And so maybe it's testing, but really training never ends. And that's the thing to keep in mind. And that's why I'm calling this video today Teachable Moments. So a teachable moment happens anytime. You just never know when it's going to happen. And so I've had, I put surveys out in the past about our school and the program and things, and occasionally one of the things will come up in regards to testing. I might ask a question of, is our testing too easy or too hard, or is it just right, or is there anything you'd like to see done differently about testing? And occasionally I will have a comment that comes back and says something to the effect that, that I get out and I correct students and I teach during a test. But I learned that through my masters, and those were some of the times that I really learned the best. I guess I'll cover that at the end here, but I want to give you, I've got 7 points here and a call to action, and just some other thoughts that I might have as I go down these bullet points here for you. So number one, and as far as a teachable moment, this is where it kind of comes from, is the promotion testing. And sometimes I come out, and oftentimes I'll come out and I will correct the technique, or I'll show a student how to do it properly. And it's at that moment that the student finally gets it. So the other students around watching it, they also, at that moment, they get it. Has it been taught in class before? Absolutely. Has it been taught in a seminar before? Absolutely. But sometimes, that's the best time to get it, is right when you're doing it. I mean, imagine if you could, be in the middle of doing something that was like performing it, whatever it is, and you had the option of having somebody stop the show or whatever, and come out and give you critiques and things to be able to put you back into the character or whatever that you were acting or portraying, and then send you back out with a better state of mind and maybe more tenacity in that role or something like that. And that's kind of the idea behind this. So teachable moment. Number one, learn when you can, and take it as it comes. There are a lot of times where we learn things in like, say, a classroom setting, and it could be martial arts, or it could be mathematics. Sometimes learning in those settings is all that we need, but there are some things that sometimes, and especially when you're talking physical things, that you really can't. So let's say, like during a football game in a professional environment, I think the quarterback probably has an earpiece and he can hear the coach talking to him, and he might be shouting things at him for what to do and asking him questions of, why are you doing that and what's going on, and so he's basically coaching him in the moment, and that can sometimes mean the difference between winning and losing. And then of course, when they take their timeouts, that's what the timeouts are designed for. So timeouts are designed so that the coach can get the team around and tell them, hey guys, get your heads out of your hind ends. You don't have your heads in the game, and you've got to do something different, or you're going to have the same results. We're losing this match, and so we've got to get back in there. And the goal is to very quickly do that. And so when I do my teachable moment at a test, that's essentially what I'm doing. Now, in let's say a sparring match or in a boxing match, that's not possible as often. Now, but if you pay attention to it, it's happening there as well. You'll hear the coaches and the referees and things, and not the referees much, but the coaches on the sidelines from the, looking up the ropes, stick and move, keep your left hand, or keep your right hand up, and they allow it to happen. Does the fighter always hear it? Probably not. He might or might not hear it, but the one that hears it, that might be the one thing that really gets him back into the game, so that he can successfully defeat his opponent, or at least keep from getting hurt. So, you take it when it comes. And so I think a lot of times students or parents mainly that come to watch one of our promotion tests, and especially it usually happens more during an advanced test or a black belt test is when I'll do these things. And I can see, and like this last Saturday, I made or asked a couple of questions and it was just total silence. And I didn't know how to read that. I wasn't sure if that was, people were upset with me or people were afraid to speak up and say something, because they didn't want to get pulled into the show. I don't know what it was, but nonetheless, it was kind of hard to read because my motivation was not to embarrass anybody. My motivation was not to, to fail anybody. My motivation was to coach them to do better. And for those who were here, I believe that I accomplished that. Each time I stopped them and had them check something or try something different or watch Matt Tucher do it or watch somebody else do the technique or have them perform it a few times and then critique what was going on. At that moment, they're supposed to be able to demonstrate certain things. And if they can't, then that's the time that I'm going to have to try to teach them, because there is really no better time than when you're actually, in your mind, doing your very best. But that's what a coach does for you. See, that's what I really am. I'm a martial arts instructor, but more than that, I'm a life coach. I'm a martial arts coach. My job is to pull that extra 10% out of my students, and occasionally I go into my Bobby Knight mode. And, that's, like him or not, he got great results. And then of course I do have my other moments that are like, I can't think of his name, Tony Dungy. He's a little bit kind of the opposite spectrum there. So I have a little bit of both of those moments. I don't like going into my Bobby Knight mode, but when it's necessary, I think that it's pretty effective. I've yet to throw a chair at anybody, but I do pound my fists occasionally on a desk. But that's it. It's basically learn what you can, or learn when you can, and take it as it comes. When it's there, take advantage of it. Okay, number 2, be open to the message. A lot of times as human beings, we can't handle being criticized, having criticism come our way. But you have to remember that when you're being criticized by somebody who cares about you, and I care about every single one of my students, believe me, I wouldn't allow them to become students if I don't care about them. And if they make it all the way to black belt, you can quadruple that. So be open to the message. Who is it now? If it's the neighborhood bully that wants to see you fail, then I understand you getting a little upset when he or she is critiquing you. They don't really have a place to do that. But when it's your parent, when it's your teacher, when it's myself, when it's one of our instructors here, when it's one of your senior belts who's really trying to help you get that little extra 10% out, you've got to be open to the message. And so you've got to realize that you're not perfect. I'm not perfect. Nobody here is perfect. And that's the reason why we continue doing this. And so since we're not perfect, my instructors critique me all the time. Grandmaster Lee, when he comes in, he was here just 2 weeks ago or a week and a half ago. And my goodness, the whole time he was here, he just critiqued one thing after another about the school, the layout, the way the students stood up or sat down and took their belts off during graduation and whatnot. But I didn't get upset about those things by any means, not one iota. I was actually very thankful that he brought those to my attention, because I would never know to improve those things. I would just think everything was fine. So it's great that I had him come in for that event to be able to see that. And then, of course, having him in for the seminars, I'll talk about that in a moment here, but that's a great opportunity for him to see what is missing in with our students. What are we forgetting to teach? What are we not focused on? How can we improve the experience for you guys? And so that's what you've got to think about is just being open to the message. So when he was critiquing me, he critiqued probably 20 things, honestly. That might be an understated number as well. But he always does that. But his mission when he does that is to help improve me in some way. It might be the way I'm teaching or what I'm teaching. I'm not teaching this right, or I'm not teaching that. I'm teaching too much of this, not enough of that, not enough of that, what have you. But it's having him give me those critiques that help make me a better martial artist, make me a better teacher, make me a better business owner, and all the other things. So you have to be open to the message. Sometimes I know as soon as I say something, the student or the parent, they get closed off to the message, and I can see it's a little bit of a negative vibe that comes back. But that's the thing, that's the time to keep in mind, to be open to the message. What is it we're trying to accomplish? Are you trying to accomplish a colored belt around your waist? Really just for the color? Or are you really trying to gain a new skill? Are you trying to grow and improve? You see, when you become a black belt in the martial arts, that's really what it's about. It's about transformation. You can't earn a black belt at our school and be the same person you were 6 months ago or 6 years ago. You have to change. You have to improve. You've got to be better than you were before. And that's the idea behind first degree, second degree, third degree, fourth degree, fifth degree, and so on and so forth. Is each level we're supposed to get better. And so that's the only way we're going to get better is if we're open to the message. You know, there's an old saying that says your mind is like a parachute and it only works when it's open. So important thing to remember is during those teachable moments, not to look at it as an embarrassment. Look at it as somebody's trying to do you a favor. Somebody's trying to help you improve. And that's really the truth. Because honestly, if you ask anybody who's been my student for a long time, if I don't care for somebody, and there's a time where maybe a teenager will get a little bit, big for their britches, and they'll become a little bit more disrespectful towards me or toward the staff and things, and I can kind of see it in their behavior. I don't correct that student very much, if at all. I let them kind of, just be who they are and be what they are for a long time until they realize they're not really getting any better. And then when their mind is open, I can see it. At that point, I can give them some advice, and they might take it. But it comes down to how open they are mentally. Point number 3, I guess, goes right into that, and that's this, and that God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. And that means that we should be listening twice as much as we talk. When I'm with Grandmaster Lee, I don't really say a lot except for yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir, because he's the wise one in the relationship. I mean, I have some wisdom, and a lot of it comes from people like him, but it's like really down here to him. So for me to try to impress him with my wisdom is ridiculous. There's no point in it. He's already thought all the things that I'm going through, thought about all the things I'm going through, or thought, and he's gone through a lot of the things that I'm gone through, and he's trying to help make me better. So I've got to remember to keep my ears open and my mouth closed, and just answer with a yes, sir, once in a while. So that's the next thing about having being teachable, or having a teachable moment. Okay, right on to number 4. When somebody teaches you or your child something, this is a big one for me. It's a big pet peeve. When somebody tries to teach your child especially, embrace it. Don't fight it, parents. There's a recent example of this, and the student is a quit now. They enrolled probably in the last 2 or 3 months, and they've already quit, and it's because of the child's behavior. And the student, this is the story I heard, is the student was supposed to be here for class at 4 o'clock or 4:30 on one of the evenings, and he was at the swimming pool. It was during I guess at the last part of summer, and he was kind of dragging his feet. He wasn't getting moving. And Mom was like, "Come on, we have to go. Joey, we have to go." And that's not his name. I'm not going to give you his real name. Joey, we have to go. And he was just dragging his feet and not doing anything. One of the parents' neighbors stood up, and basically she gave him a kick. Not like a real kick, but I mean just kind of kicked him in the behind and said, "You pay attention to your mother and do what she says to do." At that moment, the mother, instead of thanking that neighbor, got very irate with the neighbor and told her to mind her own business. It wasn't any of her business, and that's a huge problem because that was a teachable moment for her son, and he learned. Granted, I mean, get my words in this, or mark my words in this. He learned. And I'll tell you what he learned. He learned that nobody else has any business telling him what to do or how to do it or correcting anything. And that's a big problem that's going on in our school systems, is the kids know this, and they don't respond to the teachers because they realize that the teachers are just giving lip service. Back in my day, and maybe some of your day, we got the paddle. If we disrespected our teacher and didn't do what they said, they would take us to the special room and have us bend over and look out the window, and wham, 3 or 4 swats with that wooden paddle with the holes in it, and my goodness, you came back to classes and it was yes ma'am, and you were back in the mode. There weren't fights between teachers and students, and there weren't arguments between teachers and students. You just didn't see those things. Those people got quickly taken to the principal's office and expelled from the school. But nowadays, people are sue happy, right? They're litigious, and they don't allow other parents or other teachers to be part of the upbringing. So what they're teaching their child is that nobody has any right to direct you or correct you. And I'm here to tell you that they do, and we do. It takes a village to raise a child, and that's a big reason why children aren't growing up today with morals and values that they used to have, because they don't have the influence from their neighbors and from their teachers, because mom and dad a lot of times kind of shuts that out. And my own mother did that to a certain degree. I remember her, going into, I think it was 6th grade, when I should have gotten in trouble. I got into trouble for, being disrespectful to my teacher, and I got put in the principal's office, and they called my mom, and instead of her supporting that decision and saying, hey, you shouldn't have done that, and you apologize, she said, who are you to tell my son anything? I'm the mother. I mean, it was just at that moment I thought it was great because I was kind of nah. You got in trouble to the principal from my mother, but actually looking back on that, man, how wrong was that for my mom to do that? And I love my mom, so if she's watching this, I don't misunderstand. It's not a knock on you because you didn't know any better at that time. So anyway, that's what it comes down to: is we have to allow others to influence our kids, and they have to sometimes teach us. If you're not doing something you should be doing as a parent, I think it's incumbent upon anybody else around there. So, for an example, like leaving your child in a car with the windows rolled up and smoking cigarettes, or leaving them in a hot car during the summertime while you go in, and if they're especially young ones, 2, 3, 4, 5 years old, as you go into the convenience store for just a minute. I think anybody has a right to say something about that, and at that moment we have to be open-minded to it and recognize when we're in the wrong. I get people that honk at me on the interstate. Sometimes I'll be like going through a school zone and I'm very zoned in on my what I'm listening to, and I won't slow down the extra 5 miles per hour. I mean, it's really all it is. But sometimes they'll honk at me and I'll go, "Oh my goodness, thank you," because I didn't realize, and I slow down instead of getting really upset. And sometimes I do. I get upset at first. Go, "What did I do wrong?" I ask my wife, "Did I do something wrong?" And if she can't come up with something wrong, then I'm like, "Oh, whatever," But if she says, "Oh, you were in the school zone and you were going too fast," oh, okay, they had a right to do that then, right? So that's what I mean about teachable moments. If somebody tells me that I'm supposed to drive, at 25 miles per hour in a school zone, I know that. You can teach me that in the classroom, but it's really not going to impact me until I'm in the moment and I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. At that moment, if somebody honks their horn at me or tells me to slow down or whatever, that's the time that I'm going to learn the best because I'm actually doing the activity. So when somebody teaches you or your child, don't fight it, embrace it. Encourage other people in your children's lives to speak up when their child is not doing the right things. I mean, that's a huge one. Okay, number 5, recognize that sometimes you don't pay attention and that you miss it during a class or even during a seminar. So if you're a student of mine, recognize that it isn't the reason you can't do it or you don't know something is not always always due to the fact that your teacher or I didn't share that with you. My goodness, we do everything we can and we kind of beat our heads against the wall sometimes, having to say the same thing the 100th time to a brown belt or even a black belt and then not get it. So it isn't always that you didn't learn it. It's sometimes you have to be honest with yourself. You just aren't paying attention. I can tell you I'm the same way. There are times where I'm reading a book and I'm reading a paragraph and I'm not paying attention, and I get to the end of the paragraph and realize, wow, what did I just read? I have no idea what I just read. I was going through the motions. And I assure you that happens to you. It happens to you when you're driving sometimes. It happens to you when you're in class. And so so you can't just say teach during the class and during the test let people do what they're going to do. Otherwise, they're never going to have that moment where they go, aha. And that's what a teachable moment is. Okay, so number 5, recognize that sometimes you simply don't pay attention and you might miss it during a class and even a seminar. And that's what I'm going to come back to that. Grandmaster Lee came in a couple of weeks ago, a week and a half ago for a seminar, and the people who came to the seminar, a lot of people didn't come. It was a very ill-attended seminar, and part of that was because we had so many things going on, and I realized that it was just right after Labor Day weekend, and people had a lot of other plans and weddings and other things. But when you have somebody that of his caliber come in and you missed that, my goodness, you missed an entire, for adults, 4 hours of a teachable moments one after another. And those that took the black belt test, I could absolutely see the difference in just 1 week from them coming to his seminar and getting that information directly from him and then performing it at the promotion test. It was night and day difference, because at that moment when he was teaching them, they were open to it. And the funny thing was, the thing that I noticed one of them got, which was an axe kick, was the very same thing that I have taught these students myself personally during BBC classes and during advanced classes and seminars multiple times. But somehow when Grandmaster Lee said it that day, they were open and receptive to it. They got it. So that was a teachable moment. And if you missed those seminars, I'm working on getting Master Perez to come out next month. Don't miss that. That's another teachable moment for you. Will he cover, if you've been to one or two before, will he cover some of the same things? Absolutely. But he's going to cover it, and maybe this time you'll be ready to receive it, and you'll have that teachable moment. So don't think to yourself, just because you've seen it once or been there even 5 times if you've been there. Come again. You're going to have that one aha moment that you didn't get before. And then, of course, it's always slightly different. So number 6 is recognize that sometimes the stakes have to be high before you pay attention. That's an important one. Recognize that sometimes the stakes have to be high before you pay attention. Some people, they need to get knocked down before they realize they're even in a fight. And it's kind of a mental thought process with performing of any kind. Football games, sometimes they don't play too well until they lose their first touchdown to the other team. Sometimes the nose guard doesn't really dig in and grab the other guy until he gets smashed one time and taken down. And sometimes, when the stakes are high, that's the time where we rise to the occasion and we start to really treat it seriously and realize, oh, I need to do some things differently here. But unfortunately, like at a black belt test, as I say so many times, you can't cram for a black belt test. You can't cram for a physical exam. If you're going to do a 12 rounds of boxing with Mike Tyson, even now, you can't learn boxing and get really good at it and then take off 2 years, or you can't even take off 2 months and expect to be able to get into the ring with that guy and even walk out again. So it's at the moment where he finally hits you with that uppercut that you realize, oh my goodness, I haven't been training. I haven't been doing what I'm supposed to do, and now it shows. That's what they call, leads us right into number 9. It's what they call the moment of truth. So what is the moment of truth? Excuse me, I'm a little itch here. Can't get it to go away. The moment of truth is that moment when the truth is revealed. Either you've been doing the training, either you're ready, or you haven't been doing the training and you're not ready. At that moment, that's when the truth is revealed, and that's why they call it the moment of truth. So if you want your moment of truth to be a good one, then you have to be teachable. You have to be open to those teachable moments so that you can get to that moment of truth. So for the students who were taking the black belt test last week, some of them came to the realization that, wow, I haven't been putting forth the effort that I had been putting before. And I feel it today, or it shows. And that's the time where they've got to think to themselves, wow, what am I going to do about it next semester? Am I going to continue down that same path, or am I going to take a different approach? And so that's number 9, the moment of truth. That's my last point. So my call to action is really simple. It's a couple of things. I'm going to give you a little quote here. I don't know how many of you guys watching this are rap fans, but I'm an eclectic music person, but probably from the age of about 15 till probably 20 or 21, I was very heavily into rap music, and some of it was the bad stuff, and that was toward the end, thank goodness. But I was young, and I thought it was cool to drive down the street listening to Ice Cube and NWA, and for those of you who know who those people are, and I wouldn't do that today. I might listen to one of their songs just for nostalgia or something like that, but I certainly wouldn't sit down and listen to a whole album. And honestly, I can't. I have to listen to the PG versions, the radio versions, and edit those things out. I can't listen to a stream of obscenities being rapped over a beat. But anyway, there was a group, and my favorite group at the time was Run DMC, and they had a song called "It's Like That." And I encourage you, if you've not heard the song, as soon as you get off of here, go onto YouTube and pull up the video and listen very, very carefully to the words. One of the things that they said, there's Run DMC is two people. Run is Reverend Run now, Run, and basically he was called that because he liked to run his mouth. And the other guy's name was DMC, and DMC wore the glasses, and the DMC meant Daryl McDaniels, his name. And Joseph Simmons was Run. So Run DMC, that was their name. I forget, I think that it was DMC that has the verse, and he says, the next time someone's teaching, why don't you get taught? It's like that. And that's the way it is. It's a fantastic song, and when you listen to it, it is, you'd swear that it was recorded last week because of what's going on in our world and how much it applies to today. So that's call to action number 1. But call to action number 2, the real call to action, is to really open your mind to those teachable moments. The next time you have an opportunity to be taught or to do the teaching, parents, take advantage of it. There really is no right place or right time to teach something. Sometimes when your child is misbehaving in the middle of a restaurant, that's the time and the place that you need to be teaching that to them. You can, be quiet about it and tell them, stop it like that, and wait till we get home and all those kind of things. And you should do that. But when it gets to a point they're not paying attention to that, you have to pick them up and remove them from the situation. You got to handle your business right then and there. That's the teachable moment for that child. I'll tell you what, I never got away with acting up like that in the restaurants that I know. Maybe when I was really young and I don't remember, but I'll tell you, when I was in a restaurant as a teenager and I was with my parents, my mother especially, and I was, pouting and things like that, boy, did I get it right then and there at the table. And that was before people really got involved and said things about, oh, you shouldn't hit them and things like that. My mother is, big into corporal punishment, and, many times and most times I deserved it, honestly. So I have nothing but thanks to say for that, because it really taught me that, there were certain things I was not going to get away with. So those were teachable moments for me, and that's how I learned, sometimes by testing the boundaries a little bit and finding out that when you test those boundaries sometimes smack you back. And in this case, for me, it was literal. So that's pretty much my message for today. So I'm going to call it a day for that, and I'll be back to join you next week. And if there's, by the way, if there's something a topic you'd like to hear me discuss or to talk about, to teach, something that maybe, for an example, maybe your kids are not doing something you'd really like to get them to do, or there's a lesson as you're having one of your teachable moments in your car with your kids, which you should be having all the time. Don't let them just listen to music in their earphones. Make them take those things out, and you teach them about life. Make sure that that's a teachable moment for your kids. And don't give up on them. When they shut you out and give you the rolling of the eyes and things, don't give up. Talk anyway. They're listening. They're gonna remember it, and sometime in the future it's gonna come back to them. So in the moments where you're trying to teach something to your kids in the car and they're not listening to you, that's the one thing I want you to come back and let me know what it is you're trying to get across to them. And maybe I can say it in just such a way that it'll get through and they'll have that teachable moment. So if you have something like that, feel free in the comments below to let me know what that is. Otherwise, I'm gonna bid you a fantastic week. We got some great weather this week on the way, and hope to see you guys very soon.